Thank you everyone so much for joining us for our masterclass, which is hosted by FamilyOfficeList.org. I am Danielle Patterson, CEO of Family Office List, and I am thrilled to be welcoming you today. And our guest speaker is Denny Chared, the founder of DC Finance. Denny will share his insights into the family office mindset and effective strategies required to bring long-term relationships with these investors. Denny has extraordinary experience. He's been working in the industry for over 20 years with, both family offices and ultra high net worth individuals. He's cultivated unmatched approach to building connections in the space, and I had the privilege to attend his event in Chicago, as well as his flagship conference in New York and Beverly Hills last year. So I can confidently say that his insights are invaluable. Denny's conferences have a global reach, beginning with the very first event he did in Tel Aviv 20 years ago. Today, DC Finance hosts events across 18 international destinations in 2025 alone. Their key conferences are scheduled for cities such as Abu Dhabi, New York, Dallas, Singapore, Toronto, and more. I'll be sure to share in tomorrow's email with the recording from today's session the amazing lineup. Hopefully you guys will get an opportunity to attend if you haven't. They are really incredible opportunities for networking and learning. Denny has expertise in really navigating the family office sector and providing value. So we're honored to have him here to share that expertise. And before we dive into today's session, just a couple quick housekeeping notes. I will be managing the Q&A, so we make these live intentionally. We really want you to be able to ask those burning questions, to be able to participate and really benefit from Denny's expertise. And I've also enabled the chat. So two separate areas. The chat can get very noisy, and so we don't lose sight of any questions. Please use the Q&A for those. But yes, by all means, introduce yourselves, share your LinkedIn URLs. I've attached mine at the top. Would love to connect with anyone afterwards to keep the conversation going. And yes, without further ado, Denny, I would love to thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me, and honored to be with you and your guests. And I've known you for many years, and you do something brilliant in the industry. So,
well, I appreciate you. I appreciate you, Denny. And I've really been looking forward to this one and appreciate you taking the time. We were kind of talking before we started just about what an action-packed year it's been for him. I think in 1 month alone, how many events was it that you hosted?
Depends. We have 12 club events. We had 18 conferences, and I don't even know how many private dinners.
Amazing.
50, well, 50, I don't know.
Well, we're honored.
And online sessions, online sessions like you do, we've done a lot as well. So
yeah,
a lot.
Amazing. Well, thank you for sharing your time. We know how precious it is. And to everyone, thank you for sharing this time. It's our, your most valuable asset. So the fact that we can share it together and learn is really a privilege. And this is a question I don't yet know about you, Denny. Something I've always wanted to know is what led you initially to start DC Finance?
So there was no vision or anything like that. It's not that I knew what I wanted to do at all. I was a financial journalist covering Wall Street for like the Wall Street Journal in Israel. And then at some point I decided I don't want to write about people all of my life. I want to maybe somebody to write about me at some point. And I left it, but I just left in the wrong time, 2000 and something. And one, I think the crash, there was nothing to do. Nobody was hiring. And then I started to raise capital for different, organizations like the Publicly Traded Companies Association, stuff like that. Ended up doing my own conferences, corporate finance, institutional investment, hence the finance in my name. By the way, the name DC Finance misleads you in any letter. We're not in DC, nor do we do finance, but it is what it is. That's where it came from doing financial conferences. And then I discovered the unparalleled universe of family offices and what's going on there. And I understood that there was nothing neutral for families. There was UBS and EY and whomever, but they always had an agenda. And we've built the first family office neutral conference for families in Israel with the guidance of two very known families there. And then it just grew. So no vision, nothing.
History.
I was unemployed. That was
An ambitious entrepreneur. I love the journey. I didn't know really how it all came about, but that's amazing and really incredible to see, from those small beginnings, really what it's grown into. It's incredible. So congratulations on that.
Thank
Um,
you.
yeah, so I feel most people here have a base level of family offices, but I really would love to pick your brain from your perspective about what sets a family office apart from an institutional investor.
Completely different kind of group that institutional investor, obviously the pension funds and all the big guys, investment committees, criterias, and family office. And again, when you say family office, it's a big term.
Even the
You know,
term, yeah.
I say family office is a high net worth in one sentence because it could be a high net worth without a family office. It doesn't matter. The of course it matters. But I would say there are many things that puts them apart from others. Family offices are liquid in many cases. They're huge in the sense that soon, I think I've seen research saying soon the money under management there would be larger than the hedge fund and VC and private equity industries combined. They can make decisions that institutions would never do, even if it's outside of their investment committee direction. There's a term for that, passion investment. I can talk about that as well. And I can talk about, dive into details about how they invest, like unlike VCs, how they invest in tech companies and others, but they're growing every single day. Every day you have exits, every day you have and they are smart, they're sophisticated, and when the shit hit the fan, it's not the institutional investors that are going to save you, or the VCs that are going to back the companies they already backed a year ago and want to keep them alive. It's the family offices that that have the capital, that have the knowledge, the sophistication to look at those kind of deals. So they're very different than institutional investors in how they think and how they execute and how you reach out to them. And yeah, and
No,
most companies are not even a fit for institutional investors. So it's not even
that's a great
where they
answer.
would want to
There's
go.
no one size fits all, but I like, the way you said it, when the shit hits the fan, they're the ones, they know how to get things done. They have the expertise, the operational know-how.
Faster, way
Yeah.
faster than institutional investors. If an
Yeah.
institutional investor will make sure every trend that's out there is going to miss. Because by the time they figure out, okay, let's do this and get all the, and in a way it's okay, right? Because institutional, you don't want your pension fund money to go into crazy things, right? But
Right.
again, when you looked at blockchain, when you looked at opportunity zone, when you looked at cannabis, who was there first? The institutional?
Yeah.
No way. Family offices. They were the first ones to identify the trend, understand what's going on, and get on board. So
Yeah.
that's a
So this is interesting. I had a series of questions I wanted to ask, but I kind of jumping around because it does really lead to an interesting point. Family offices obviously are set up to preserve the wealth of the family, but at the same time, the way that they're structured and that flexibility allows them to take risks if they choose to do so. And so I guess it depends on the goals, the values of each family office, and how do you feel you see them balancing this preservation with growth strategies, and has that changed significantly over the past couple years?
So I think, by the way, another thing about family offices, they are the hardest groups to reach on earth, right? Pension fund,
Pick your
you
brain
go,
about
you
that.
Google, right?
Mhm.
And you find out, who they are and where they are, and you go after them. You cannot just go after families. You cannot just put an advertisement at a magazine and reach out to families. You need to develop trust. A lot of things we can talk about it later that
Oh
really,
yeah, no,
really.
that's like what everyone wants to know. So don't you worry, you're not getting away without sharing the secrets.
So I think, well, the sophisticated family offices definitely want to preserve the wealth, because they see themselves as as those who their job is to take the wealth and make sure it's there for the next generation, rather than lose it, of course. So that's a main goal of many sophisticated families. but I think they are very different than one another. I mean, some of them would be way more will take way more risks than other families would.
Mhm.
It's very personal. At the end of the day, it's like you. It's like me. We each have different flavors that we like. But I think at the core, they'll always keep the majority safe so they can preserve the wealth and then take risks with the rest. And they just gotten more and more sophisticated. They hire the right people. They they uh, they know how to do the due diligence. They sense in many occasions, I cannot say all the time, but I think they sense fraud. They can feel it. They want to
Mm,
put in the eye, even though, of course, they get beaten as well. But they navigated the blockchain era in 2018, where 85% of whatever was out there was complete and utter fraud. They managed to. I know so many families that managed to navigate that space amazingly well. So I think they become more sophisticated. They do a very thorough due diligence. They
mhm.
advise one another. They do co-investing. So I think that kind of grew throughout the years.
Yeah. I mean, amazing to see how technology and even AI and has helped really accelerate due diligence and professionalizing these family offices. Neat to see some of the educational institutions like the Chicago Booth school starting an initiative for family offices. And really, I feel your conferences are a way to help bring these families together, to help educate and allow them to share and learn best practices. Would you say that's one of the goals behind DC Finance, is really to allow a safe space for families to learn from each other? Even though there is no one size fits all, at least they can learn from each other's caliber and expertise in different areas.
And we have two arms. Just to I didn't mention that we have the conference side where it's way more than a conference. I always explain we don't build conferences.
Yeah.
Anybody can build a conference. Build a conference for doctors. You bring booth. You bring doctors, and you got family offices. It's way more difficult. It's trust.
Hmm.
It's build communities. So we build communities. Every city I've mentioned is a local community of families that attend that conference. But we also have another part, as you may know, we have the family circle, which is a private club just for families that are very wealthy that pay membership fee to be part of. It is chaired by Lisa Silverstein, the heir to Larry Silverstein's empire, one of the largest real estate families here. And we hold events at the homes of other prominent families. We've done this year Spielberg in LA, Crown in Chicago, 7-Eleven in Dallas, Silverstein in New York, and many others. And that's very interesting. I have a lot of things you see about how they communicate with one another, even if they're worth $1 billion and you only 100.
Right.
Uh, and I can share more about that later. But we have two arms that are kind of
Okay.
synergetic to one another. But one is a place where they pay to be part of, and it's only for the family members, nobody else. And then you have the conference where also the family offices can come, the family offices. And if people don't know how it's structured or what's the idea behind a family office as a term, I think they do because that's what you do. But if you need explanation about that, then
It's a great place to learn. And the people that work within the family offices and are looking for deal flow and opportunities to serve the families. But amazing, Denny, congratulations on being able to build that trust to have an exclusive family member group only, because that is, I mean, we joke that the families, they never want to have to pay for anything, and you really created something very valuable where they feel safe and that trust is there. So that kind of leads me into our next really topic is how to go about building trust. I mean, you say you can't just put a billboard out there and connect and raise capital. I mean, you really need to understand what drives this family, their motivations. It's a lot of psychology, I think. And I think a lot of people can get intimidated by that. So do you have advice or strategies in terms of how to show up, how to serve, how to build trust in the community?
so yeah. I mean, first of all, in my space, just to make this conversation interesting, I personally think that most of the groups that call themselves family office this and family office that to do conferences or do this or whatever are somewhere between fraud to just crappy. There are very few that I think are real, very, very few. And the problem is, and it's maybe important, especially with your group, because people who don't come from within the industry don't understand that, and they trust people, which is something you do, and there was, without mentioning names, the largest family office conference, the macro, I forgot all those names they use.
The super summit and the
super. People don't even understand the terminology. When you're a family office, do you think you want to be in anything super?
Right.
You want to be in something small, boutique that nobody's heard about. So, by the way, I advise people when you look at a group and you want to see what they do. And by the way, there are groups. I'm sorry, I'm sidetracking you, but just to tell you,
this is so
one
valuable.
of the largest families out there is calling me and said they got a call from them. I'll give you another example. A company in Israel gets a call from one of these guys saying, "Oh, there's an investor. They told you about us. They told us about you, and they want to invest in you." And the company goes, "Great, thank you. Well, what's now?" Well, he's going to be at our conference, but in order to meet him, you got to sponsor. And and there are some companies that choose those tactics, and people buy that. And I think just you learn to do your due diligence also about groups in my sector. Do you recognize the families? Are they real families that are involved? Do you see real brands involved? Do you see EY? Do you see major legal firms, or do you see just smaller companies that you never heard of? Do your due diligence, and then you'll find out what's wrong. And that I brought up because of trust, because that's how I built what I built. You cannot be a corporate and become a family office community, because it doesn't work that way. And you cannot delegate anything. I cannot tell my employee, "No, you go to speak to Spielberg because I'm busy." It's not going to happen.
Right. Relationship piece.
And yeah, you need to build the trust for many years. It's a long path. We are a small family business ourselves, and there are no shortcuts. So I think families, in general, it's all about trust. Everybody wants something from them. They have many layers of protection and they may come, some of them, as you might say, "Oh, they're full of themselves. They're not nice." Just understand that some of them, especially the wealthier ones, everybody wants something from them all of their lives. They don't even know if the person they marry is it love, or is it what's going on. So they have their own challenges. So they're very protective, and rightly so.
Understandable.
So you need to develop trust. You need to do an elevator pitch about what you do that is right to the point. You need to explain what's the opportunity in your market. Why is there an opportunity in your market, and why are you the one that can understand that market, right? And then I also think, when you follow up, sometimes I see people that don't follow up or follow up too often. You need to take it easy, and sometimes it's a long path. Some of them would react very quickly. And I had a family that ended up investing in a private equity fund, and they called me. I'm sorry, the fund called me after a while, saying, "Is he serious, this guy?" And he's a billionaire from Australia. And I told him, "Well, he is, yeah. But you know what? You asked me what's the difference with pension funds. It's not other people's money. Pension funds is other people's money. You feel way more relaxed to play with other people's money. But when it's your money, it's a little bit different." So families, some of them are very quick to act. Some of them will due diligence the hell out of you. And they will take their time, and they'll meet you again. And that's how it works. So at the end of the day, the guy didn't just end up as an investor. He brought his friends over, which brings me to another point about family offices. They actually bring their friends if they're happy. Think about yourself investing in a company that you like. And what do you do at Friday evening with your friends? Aren't you going to talk about that great company you met? They're so nice. They're into, not because you want to sell them, because you're a social person and you're happy with what you've done. Institutional investor will not do that. And many times their friends will come, and you kind of penetrated an entire community of families, right? That come along with it. And another thing that I think comes, it's not exactly trust, but also something very unique about families, is passion investing. And the fact that, answering again a question from before, institutional investor has an investment committee. They decided on this is how we're going to allocate the pie. That's it. If you're not in the pie, and even with VCs, it's a big problem. They miss a lot of great opportunities. I forgot the name of the company that those that do the sensors for cars. An Israeli company. I have a blackout. Never mind.
Anyone knows? Put it in the chat.
No VC would touch them.
Okay.
because they couldn't put them in the right box because it's not exactly tech, it's not exactly this,
Mobileye.
it's not. Yes, Mobileye, thank you.
Good job,
They
Emil and Tom.
did not raise capital from VCs. VCs lost their biggest chance. Now, families is exactly that. They don't need boxes. And even if people tell me what do families want, I can answer that, but many times they don't know what they want. And
Right.
let me give you an example. If I'm asking you, Danielle, what do you invest in? You're gonna tell me, I don't know, real estate and this and that. Okay. And then I'll come and say, hey, I got a 3D glasses thing going on. Can you check it out? And you'll say, Denny, it's not my thing. But I can tell you, give me just put it on for 5 minutes, check it out. You might fall in love with this. You, your daughter, your father, whomever it is in the family, and that's it. And they say, I love it. You know what? I want to be part of that. That would never happen with the more VCs or that VCs. There are no parties like that.
They're
If
just
you're a
not even allowed to. They have strict
all
mandates
right,
where you build that
imagine
relationship. Yeah, the founders don't
imagine you're a
develop.
company that raised capital from a fund, and now you need just like a bridge loan. You
Hmm.
need just a couple of meals quickly. There's an opportunity in the market. You need it now. If you're going to a VC, to your own VC, they'll send you a lot of forms. You need to fill. You need to wait. But then if you call a family that knows you, that trusts you, and say, John, I need $2 million by the end of the week. We have a great opportunity, and I want to seize that opportunity. It's a very, very different kind of mindset when you deal with family.
Well,
So
this
I'm
is
not sure which question I answered, but I answered a
No,
question.
you really did. I mean, it's all about trust. And I think in order to earn the trust, you've got to be empathetic. You have to be able to put yourself in their shoes and understand their mindset. Like you said, they are so used to just being bombarded and people needing and needing things. Like, how do you add value? How do you give something? And I think, like you said, like first showing the value, why you're the right person, ensuring alignment. But in instances like the case you gave us, maybe it's not aligned. But I think that community aspect that really stood out to me, where families are, you're building communities of families. And so if you get in with one, chances are you might get access to, the greater community of families that they work with. I know not all families are probably as extroverted and communal, but in your case, in the communities you've built, they certainly are. And do you see a lot of co-investing going on amongst the families?
Yeah, co-investing is definitely happening all around the place,
Mm-hmm.
uh, especially in the States, because the States have a very, I think, important edge because the culture is similar. So it
Yes.
doesn't matter if you're eating barbecue in Texas or you're sitting in New York City. At the end of the day, the basics are the same. When you look at Europe, it's a mess, right?
Mm-hmm.
Russia, Switzerland, England, everybody has their own thing, their own culture. So I think it's harder to co-invest in Europe, if you're asking me, because, and I'm not basing it on any research, by the way. I just think that it's just more difficult for them to find that basic understanding that we're coming from the same place because people see things differently.
Absolutely.
Um, and here there's like, you have so many families in so many sectors and it makes so much sense. If I do
Mm-hmm.
real estate, first of all, we are both on the same boat. Nobody
Right.
else. Your JP Morgan is not on the same boat with you at all. He's not on a
Mm-hmm.
boat, actually. It's flying above you and waits. So if I do, we're both on the same side. If I do real estate well, invest with me in a real estate deal. And then you do life science as well. So I'll invest with you in life science because I have no idea how to navigate that space. So yeah, co-investing is happening
Mm-hmm.
more and more between families. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, absolutely.
You see it's a great way kind of to rely on others' expertise and, if they're well seasoned and that's maybe the industry with which they came from or they've had success in their past investments. I mean, to me, that would really, yeah, help
Yeah,
in that difficulty. Yeah.
yeah.
Is there any formal organization within your groups that facilitates deals?
No. And
Okay.
that's why, by the way, why I think we are highly respected by families. We're not
Yes.
an investment bank. We're
Yes.
not taking commissions from deals. We're not earning. I mean, it's very tempting, but once you will earn on a deal, and if the deal
Yes.
goes sour, you're dead. And I don't want to be in that place. So I rather maybe earn less, but I'm not selling, them that way. And I'm not when I'm calling them, it's not because I want to push a deal to them. It's because I want
Yes.
them to share something.
I
Um,
I agree, and that's very refreshing. It's like I want to help people, and most of the people that use our service are looking to raise capital, but that it's your relationship at the end of the day, and for you to take the time to understand every deal and the dynamics shift, then you're needing something from them where you're there to give something. So it's very refreshing. I appreciate
and I also think
that approach.
maybe as an ex-journalist with a
Hmm.
little bit of chutzpah, maybe I think I managed to and I have ADHD, so I'll get bored in 2 minutes. So
You and me both. Ah, no wonder we get along so well.
really, okay. So I need, I want families to share stuff they shouldn't. Meaning,
Mm,
when I bring the son of Robin Williams to speak about mental health, when I
yes.
bring the Silverstein family to speak about 9/11 from angles you've never heard, when I bring
Hmm.
one of the largest families in Dallas to speak about marrying into wealth, and she comes with her husband that was earning $150,000 and she's a billionaire, and they share what they went through. Or the founder of Second Cup, the Canadian Starbucks, talking about being sexually abused as a child, being on drugs in the streets of Toronto. Well, that is not something you're going to hear at a UBS conference or at a JP Morgan conference. And I feel that a lot of families just want the real deal. But when you're sitting
Absolutely.
listening to advisors all day long that are great,
Yes.
but they're not the ones that went through stuff. They're not the ones who can share from within experiences. When you get the real families to talk about what really hurts, what's different about our conferences and everything else, and let's look at the best gatherings in the world, Milkins, Davos, Salt, whatever it is, it's all great, amazing. But what keeps you up at night as a family? It's your son, it's
Yes.
addiction, it's transition of wealth, it's stuff that bother you. That's what keeps you up at night. There are 1,010,000
I didn't understand that.
investment conferences. Yeah,
You're being listened
yeah,
to. Um,
investment conferences. But when you speak about stuff that hurts, you're getting the real family. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I mean it's so true, and it's they're uncomfortable topics. I attended Sean Lesser's the Real Mental Health Foundation Summit, the first of its kind, and it was something an initiative he started after his own mental health breakdown, and it was very inspiring to see people talking about things that for years have been so stigmatized. And I mean, these things matter. There were a lot of family offices passionate with their own stories and why they started initiatives, foundations, or funds to invest in these. And it's true. I mean, you really understanding the mindset, what matters, what affects them and their generations to come. And that's where, when you talked about the passion investments, that really plays into it as well. But yeah, I feel like it's very hard to create a safe space where you can get real and you can open up as a family if you're at a super summit with thousands of people who don't come from a similar mindset. So yeah, it's really eye-opening. So I am trying to be mindful of the fact that there are a live audience and there are so many questions building up. So I have all my questions, but I'd love to be able to incorporate some of what the audience is asking. And this kind of aligns with what I wanted to talk about. We've talked about the mindset, their priorities, but really approaching them. So Paul asks, when introducing yourself and your service to a family office, do you prefer to see a very detailed email and PDF for the initial outreach, or is a short and to the point intro to see if there's general interest before sending more comprehensive outline? Or Denny, you may say an email is not even going to work. Like, what do you recommend this is your initial outreach? How would you go about it?
I was just about to say to mention that. So this is amazing that he just asked that question. I personally think that the long email is a waste of everybody's time. It's we live once, and I don't want to waste it on reading long emails. I've seen pitches that are a waste of time, unfocused. I always tell my team I don't even read their emails. And I have a team member sitting here right beside me that can verify that. I don't even read so long. I mean, if you cannot say
Right.
your opening sentence, one sentence, who you are, what do you want from me, and why should I keep on reading? Three
Yes.
things.
All right, love that.
Don't even bother. You're wasting people's time. They don't know you. if you're starting to send something long, it just looks like a pitch. It looks like another spam email that comes over. It's very hard to reach out blindly. Yes,
Mhm.
I agree. You need to meet them before at a conference or something to, of course, help. But when you do, you want to be, I think, short, to the point, and excite them to know more
Mm.
about what you do,
What's that
and not
hook? Yeah.
send a long email that nobody's going to waste their time. Just going to delete it once they
I
see
mean,
it.
you
That's
think
what
the,
I feel.
yeah. I think that's it, it seems to be the consensus amongst other family offices. You know, they're busy, they tend to have small teams. Email is a necessary form of communication, but if you have no personal relationship, no ties from anything, and you have an inbox, are you really going to spend time and get dragged into something? Or are you going to look for that hook that captures your heart, maybe connects you to the person? Maybe
Yeah.
the person shows they have done enough research on you to capture you. Yeah, that's really good feedback, I
And
think.
I want to add another thing. I'll be answering your question from the beginning all throughout this, because
Oh, yes.
just I keep forgetting things.
It's free
But
form, don't worry. No
another main
agenda.
thing, when you think about how families are different than anybody else, they're not going anywhere. They're not working for somebody. When you work with a VC, when you work with an institutional
Mm,
investor, you're working with a guy with a salary. At some point, he's not going to be there anymore. Families are not
hmm.
going anywhere. They're not going getting fired. They are the family. And
Right.
if you maintain the relationship, you have something forever. The families themselves are there, and they're not going anywhere. So I think that's also a very important point about reaching out to families. They're not easy to get to, but once you do,
Right.
you have something that's forever is going to be there.
Mm.
And I have so many stories about families that ended up investing in funds and ended up sitting on their board. I had a
Ah, that's cool.
publicly traded company. We did a panel in LA at the World Stem Cell Summit. I couldn't even understand the topics of any other panel than mine. They were saying that the guy who invested in them invested because he was looking for a cure for something his wife suffered from. And when he found out that every 10th employee of the company is handicapped, he said, I don't care, I'm investing in them. By the way, another point, institutional investors, yeah, maybe the Nordic ones care about a beautiful world and not and all those issues. Most other institutions want to make money, and they don't really care if I'm between us. They will of course say I'm wrong, but they
Right.
want to make money. Families can say, you know what, I'm making enough money. I want to support something I care about, something that does good. And what happened was that guy ended up investing in that company, bringing like 15 of his friends later on to support them.
That's
That you
the
will never
jackpot.
see in any other world. So
It's just amazing, you know, where when they really do, they bring so much more than capital. They bring passion, relationships, expertise, you know. So that's an incredible success story. How incredible for that fund manager. Um, this is interesting. You know, I know just from every family office is different. Sometimes you have the family members who are actively managing. Sometimes there's hired investment professionals. You know, each office is different in terms of who the decision maker and who you need to be connecting with in terms of raising capital. But someone, and now it's already buried under other, but Chris asks us, how do you get in front of the family members versus the family office manager or chief investment officer? So that could be for completely different. Maybe Chris isn't looking to raise capital. Maybe he's looking for strategic partnership, or maybe he is a family
okay.
office himself.
So great question. It's very tough,
Hmm.
obviously, to get to the family member. I I mean, again, if you meet them at an event, that could be very helpful.
Hmm.
Um, find their email and maybe find an angle that would interest them, philanthropy or something else. Try to, sometimes it's the weird emails that get their attention, because they always get the normal emails with all the long pitches. Maybe LinkedIn. Some of them are on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a great tool. If your profile doesn't look like you're selling all around the place, and you come with a short, interesting way to reach them, some of them actually might respond on LinkedIn. Um,
Hmm.
but it's not easy, of course, to reach the family themselves and bypass the CIOs. It's a tough one. It's a tough
Yeah.
one. But again, these are the methods that I think are interesting. Yeah, there are not too many of them, but this is one. Maybe write articles about things in your space that might get their attention, but it's not an easy one.
No, I agree. And I think what you suggested is tremendous. I think COVID transformed LinkedIn and it really became this source of continuing to network and show up and have a business presence when the world shut down. And that momentum has just kept building. And I love leveraging LinkedIn to see, what common connections do we have? Is this person posting regularly? What are their initiatives? What are the things they care about if they are active posters? And how can I support their initiatives? Are they posting articles or resharing other people's things? And that's where you don't have to necessarily even ask them anything. You show up, you give, you support their initiatives. Because truly, I mean, if you're looking for an aligned partnership, it's not just what can I get from you, but what can we do together? And you have to do your own due diligence. So those sorts of things, trying to find those angles of commonality and connection and support, you need to be an engaged participant in building the relationship as well, not just going to them for something. It's a two-way side. So I think your suggestion on LinkedIn is phenomenal.
Yeah, and getting noticed is not easy at all. I mean, even if I want to get to you and I don't know you, how do I do that? I remember there was a somebody who was trying to sell us a service. We were not interested. He kept on writing one of my employees and writing and writing. At the end, I think he sent her something funny, stupid. He sent like a picture of a bear crying or something like that, and he says, "That's how I feel." And then she came back to him. She says, "Okay, I gotta get back." Sometimes it's the weird, because they get
It
all
actually
the
finally got
stuff.
you.
So yeah, so sometimes I mean it's true not only for family offices. Sometimes you need to be just different. I
Yes.
got an email. One of my best employees today sent me an email on LinkedIn that was so long, and I answered him in my unpolite way. I'm not going to read all of that. I think those who are going to read that, you don't want them to read that, and those you do want to read that will not read that. In one sentence, what do you want? And I did it twice. And one guy was like, "Oh, I'm offended. I'm blocking you on LinkedIn." I said, "Oh my God, how will I continue now?" Yeah. But the other guy actually came back to me and put it in one sentence. And I said, "Okay, that's a guy who can learn." And he got my attention. And by the way, today is a very prominent part of the company.
Amazing. Wow. And it's hard to do. I'm sure you've seen it all, every type of email, but to get the attention and how to do it in a way that's respectful enough where you're not being obnoxious or malicious but yeah, interesting. Very good feedback. Everyone's got to think outside the box. Um, Anna has a great question kind of about, what we spoke about. You may have answered this already in part. She says, part of building trust is understanding their own challenges and to be able to speak their language. Would you share insights on common challenges inside family offices? And I know you did touch on, the families and mental health and some of those things. Are there other major challenges you see that when you have these conferences, you bring these private groups together, that they're really what's top of mind? And I'm sure it changes from year to year, but what are some of the challenges family offices are facing right now?
It depends. There are different sectors that different walls. Again, like you said, mental health, marrying wealth, transition of wealth, estate planning, making sure that the taxation is not going to kill you, stuff like that. And on the service side and investments, they always need to deploy their capital and diversify. So I guess they would always look at interesting opportunities out there, interesting entrepreneurs that are just doing something differently, um, and um, and they want to find good places to invest in. I think that's one of the challenges of families all around the place.
Yeah.
So I would say these are the challenges you see. You can read a lot of research. There are loads of research by EY and different legal firms about what they're looking at. But again, at the end of the day, it's very, very particular. You might be worried right now with something because you're going through divorce, and then the next year you might be interested in something else. But in general, it's to preserve your wealth, invest it in the right way, making sure that your kids get as much as your from the inheritance as possible. That's what I think is on their minds. Yeah.
That's great insight. And you touched on that challenge of the generational wealth transfer. And, I've always enjoyed some of my favorite panels at your conferences are getting to hear the next gen and either how they're shaping the family office trajectory and either changing or embracing. And Mahir asks, from your experience, Denny, what are the main factors that affect a next gen to join the family office?
By the way, longevity is also something that I think a lot of
Yes.
people care about. And impact,
Mhm,
as I said, how to do good with your money and make money.
mhm.
So you asked me, what was the last question again?
It
The,
was just what are insights on the next gen and joining the family office?
it's,
It's probably different
it
for
is,
every family, engaging
it
and
is,
having them participate versus do their own thing.
I think it's very, again, it's different flavors out there and different ideas. There are some families that would never let their kids be in the company business at all because they don't want them to fight and they bring
Mhm,
professionals. There are some that would do the exact opposite. So I don't think there's a rule here. Obviously, when your kids run your business, you're safe. I'm not ever going to get in trouble. They're mine. They're loyal. I don't need to worry about that. But sometimes there are other issues with that. There are lots of stories with next gens that had to prove themselves more than the other employee because everybody look at them as, oh, it's the boss's child. He's not talented. He's just here because. And sometimes that's the case, but many times it's not. Many times the next gens took the companies years away from their parents because they were talented and got that. So I think it's very, very, and some family next gens don't want to be close to the family. They don't even want you to write in their title that they're part of the family. Just like Stephen King,
mhm.
at some point, I don't know if you know, wrote books under a different name. He was so successful that at some point he said, I'll write books under Robert Bachman just to see if I'm as amazing as I am or I'm already at the God level.
Oh,
And by the way,
fascinating.
those books were bestsellers as well.
Oh
So I
my
think
gosh, how
there
amazing.
are some family members who don't even want anything to do with the family. They want to do it on their own. And
That
others
makes
that do the
sense.
exact opposite. They will use the family name and enjoy it. So I don't think it really depends on the family and how everybody are,
Mhm.
the personalities.
Definitely, and kind of how that governance was structured, and was it structured to include the family? Like, do they have a family document, and what sort of communication and roles did the family members play, if any? Like you said, some are, it's just one, no, there's no one size fits all. So
I
yeah.
think with generations, they become more understanding and sophisticated about it. But usually, when you deal with the first generation, the second generation are many times, not all the time, of course, but many times they're in trouble. Many times the first gen usually comes from poverty or whatever, or
Mhm.
not from being definitely not from wealth, and they're tough people. In order to do that, you're tough people. I've seen next gens that hate their parents because they said,
Mm,
"I grew up with a nanny. I didn't grow up with a father."
yeah,
And if you ask the father would say, easy for him to talk. He was born into wealth. He doesn't understand what it means to be poor like I was, so he shouldn't talk.
yeah,
So you see all of those issues with next gens. Many times it's hard for the first generation to let go. They don't
yes.
want to give you the freedom. I've interviewed Carol Levine Bernick, one of the
I was
largest
just going to
analysts of
mention
the
gather
Chicago.
as you
She was about
go.
to convert to Unilever for over $1 billion. And at some point, she came to her father and said, "Listen, either I'm leaving right now, or the company is mine. You're already 80 something. Enough is enough. Just decide now." And so they do have issues. They have a lot of issues to struggle with, and it's very it's depending who's your father, who's your mother, and how they treat things. Some of them are wise, many of them are very tough. Sometimes you're in the shadows of your parents. It's very hard to be there.
Yeah,
What if
yeah,
you're the son of Rob Lowe, or the son of Robin Williams, or the son of they are the big actors, the big success, the big entrepreneurs. You know anyway, it's very complicated.
it's very, very complicated. I mean, you think of your own family dynamics, and then you throw a lot of wealth and business and investments, and it's complicated. I was going to bring up Carol right before you mentioned her story, but at your conference, her story brought tears to my eyes. Just, her journey in the grit in turning the business around. And I think she took all the lessons she learned in the way that she mothers her children, and the book that she wrote about, all of the hardships she's had in her life, but kind of turning pain into purpose in the way that she was willing to share with other families. And she brought her letter, and it's something I took home. It just meant a lot. So, amazing that you're bringing those
Actually,
opportunities to
her
people.
book, which I recommend you to take a look
Yes,
at,
there it is.
there it
It
is. You see,
it's
right
just
here.
beautiful, so heartfelt, and amazing lessons from her own life and career, and the family office. So yeah. Let's see. My goodness, so many questions. I have a feeling we're gonna maybe have to email some at the end to your team, Denny. But
We
let's
can do
see.
more. We can do a
I
long session.
know. We'll
I'm
just
having a
have to go
ball here.
on. Yes, and some of these things may have been addressed already, but let's see. Oh, this is interesting. Someone is interested specifically, Denny, in kind of your own family office operations, and what kind of investment opportunities, align with your mission and long-term objectives. Like when you're looking at deals and co-investing with others, are there specific mandates you're looking at?
So we're not a family office ourselves, and yeah, we don't invest ourselves in anything beyond real estate and stuff like that. I have a crazy, don't even go there. If my wife hears it again, crazy Star Wars collection. So half of the house downstairs is the crazy Star Wars collection. So I do my own stuff, but I'm not a family office myself. I bring the families together. We build this business. My wife invests in stocks and other stuff that she likes. I mostly concentrate on building this, and we don't really co-invest.
You're an empire builder. Well, then we can get rid of our next anonymous attendee asked if they could be adopted into your family office. So we'll skip that one. So there are a couple questions about cybersecurity concerns and challenges attached to previous achievements, outcomes that kind of led to fear and consequences. How do families deal with this? Yeah, I mean, I think they try to remain private, but I'll let you speak to this. There is probably a lot of concern having that level of wealth, and in this day and age, cybersecurity, and yeah.
You're right. So they do hire cybersecurity companies that help them as much as they can. Also with the profile reputation. Sometimes the kids do stupid things that mess up the family name, and they hire companies to get rid of that as well. Uh,
Reputation.
and listen, when you're worth a certain amount of money, when you're in the billions, many times the next gens have security guards with them when they go out. And they have a watch that's worth millions on its own. So, but you're right. They're definitely working with cybersecurity companies that invest a lot in that.
Yeah, we did a master class with Julia Valentine, who specializes in family office technology and cybersecurity. And it was really eye-opening just to think of all the layers of protection and coverage you really have. I mean, things that you wouldn't think about, but at that level, you need to. And if you can't do it on your own, then it's grateful to have professionals looking out for you. Let's see. What insights from risk management and adaptability can you share from your experience, Denny? Risk management and adaptability.
What risk
Richie.
management? What kind of what trends are in space that I
So,
see?
yeah, and Richie, if we need some clarification, Richie asked, what insights from risk management and adaptability can you share from your experience?
With risk management, again, I don't have a lot of experience from that angle because I'm not a wealth manager, so I'm not really the one sitting looking at their portfolios and how they manage them.
Right.
I just think when it comes to risk management, they have their advisors on every single thing from
Mhm.
transfer of wealth to investments they do. And again, they do just I think most of them do a great um, due diligence on who they work with. Um, um, Many of them would look at companies and fall in love and with entrepreneurs behind it. Many times, I had a family. It's not really answering your question about risk management, but how they avoid risky opportunities and how much they give to the factor of who you are. I had a family that invested in technology only that ended up investing in a pharmaceutical company, which is probably the craziest place to go, right? It's 10-year lockdown. You got to know the space, and she invested in them. And if you asked her, back to your earlier question, what do you want? What do you invest in? She would never say pharmaceuticals. You know why she
Yes,
invested? Because it was a woman-led company, and she wanted to support women, and she just loved the passion. And she happened to hear her because she was waiting for the keynote after her. So by the way, that's again, I told you throughout the session, we'll talk about how they're different than others. That would never happen with an experienced VC or institutional investor. She just fell in love with the person. She says, I'm backing her.
I love that. That's awesome. And I heard cannabis brought up in an earlier conversation, and I know you have lots of different panel topics. I'll be interested to see your answer or insights. Christian asks, have you seen an increase in cannabis adoption among family offices would it be accurate to say that this is a younger generation who is more open in the space as a viable investment?
I think that even without the next gen, family offices looked at that space in a positive way. Those that I think earned from the first run of the cannabis companies in 2018 and all of that were families. It definitely wasn't institutionals. So I think they get, look, as long as you don't do something very bad, if it makes sense and it makes money and there's an opportunity, they're going to be there. They don't need to agree. They don't need to use it, but they will be there. You know, if you don't, if it's not a crime or anything like that. So it's not just the next gen that they're more hip and they can smoke in the streets. That's not what triggered them to begin with. I think what triggered them was there's an opportunity. There's a drug that can change lives. It's not so bad as people say it is, and we see a trend towards normalization in the world that will probably keep on growing. So they see, oh, the trend started. So in this country it's okay. In this country it's okay. It's starting to shift. Let's invest before everybody figures out that now it's completely fine and get in on the train. So I don't think it, obviously next gens, yes, I would say they're more open, younger, open-minded. But again, I wouldn't go with a cannabis company to the UAE, no matter how old you are as a family, because I think it's against what they want to look at.
Right.
Just I wouldn't go with blockchain to maybe some older school, areas in the world. But in general, I think they learn the opportunity and they go after it. You don't need to be a real estate person to understand opportunity zone. And if the government says, hey, there's a thing now, it's called opportunity zone, we are supporting it and say, wait, for every dollar they're putting a dollar. I mean,
yeah. Win-win. Well, here's a question from Vera. Happy to see Vera here. She runs a Tiger 21 chair. She is curious to know what themes and learning topics of interest are coming up for your family office groups in 2025. I know so much work goes into curating the conferences and the panels and topics that are relevant. Are there specific topics and areas that you're focusing on in the upcoming year?
First of all, Target 21 is a great group. We work with them in many of our events. We put on panels with them, and I've interviewed Sonnenfeld, the founder, several times before. We deal with everything that hurts with a fine tuning towards where you are in the world. But in general, the topics don't really. Everybody wants to know the geopolitical issues that's going on, what people think is going to happen with security, with the army, with the war, with the hatred in the world. So people always want to catch up on that. Where is the world going, right? They want to figure out, okay, now Trump is in. What does that mean for this, and that? What will happen? So that's something they need to catch up anyway. Obviously, if there are changes in taxation, they always want to be on top of things. But then the other topics we deal with are what hurts, really. Again, marrying into wealth, addictions, even things they care about us, philanthropy, child trafficking, things they want to, support, impact investing, lots of different topics. And AI. If blockchain is coming back again now after most of the crap was died already, so what's going on there? Is that a thing now? Is that happening? So to catch on the trends in different areas, if Trump is going to support the coins, that's a big deal. is the actual blockchain industry is a thing, or it's just the coins and we're just gambling? People want to catch up on what's going on in every space. So you just need to be on top of things. What's going
Yeah.
on in every angle, psychology,
Yeah. Vera had shared
I
she
think I managed to answer all of your questions without answering any question because I have
no,
no idea.
you have this has been
I
so
have my way of
insightful.
answering your questions. Yeah.
You
No,
have you've answered them all spot on. This is so insightful. And I knew from a conversation earlier with Vera, she was planning a conversation around death. And these are hard things. No one likes to talk about it, but we all die. And when that happens, if you're not prepared with the ways to process those emotions, so these are, they're hard topics, but they're the ones that matter. Um, Let's see. Emily asks us, what are some concrete tactical steps to meet, build, and maintain authentic relationships with family offices? Well, Emily may have, she dropped this about 20 minutes earlier. So we've kind of been talking about it the whole time, but beyond, add value, know their context, where they're coming from, show up at conferences. Any other advice, Denny, that you could share?
I
Concrete
think
tactical steps.
it really depends what you're offering, what you're selling at the end of the day, in a way, right? Because it's a very different answer if you're a legal firm or if you're a startup company. It's a
Mm-hmm.
different product. It's a different. If you're in the boring so-called world, if you're a CPA, if you're a legal firm, you need to, and you want them to change and move from their trusted legal guy to you. That's a big deal. Yeah, you need to do something different and convince the next gens who want to have to leave their stamp that you got something. If you're a company, stress what's interests them. Do you do impact investing inside your company? Do you do something exceptional they should know? And is there an opportunity? And excite them. Don't bore the hell out of them. I see people just going. I had a company that said, "Oh, half of the audience got up after 5 minutes during a lecture." And I said, "Well, you're very happy they didn't get up after two, because after 5 minutes we still don't know what you're doing." I mean,
Right.
get the point of what is it you do and why am I to waste more time listening to this. So I think you just got to be quick. You have to be different. Try to expand your opportunity very quickly and maintain the relationship with the families as much as you can. When you're a company that raises money, don't forget about your investors now until you need it again. The best time to go after families is when you don't need them, right?
I love that.
So, and it's
Yes.
true in many other sectors, by the way. So, what you want to do is be in touch with them, call them every once in a while. What's up? What's new? What's going on? Be transparent with them. Some of the
Yeah.
investors, the investor I told you before, the billionaire that ended up investing in the real estate fund. I spoke with him. He said, "Well, they're not doing that great, but the market is not doing that great either, so that's fine. But I love them. They are transparent with me. They call me every quarter.
Refreshing.
They send me information. I know where I stand. I know I'm in good hands, and I know right now real estate is where it's at. Next year it's going to be in a different place, but I feel comfortable. So
Yeah.
that's
You
what I
can
would say."
trust what they're telling you. No, that's so refreshing. Yeah. I know we're coming up to the hour here. I'm sneaking in one question of my own because I'm very curious. You get world-class, people that can come and attend and sponsor, and you vet your sponsors and make sure that they're adding value. And, they do their presentations and pitches, and you've probably seen a lot of flops, but a lot of successful. Any advice, if someone wants to be a sponsor and they want to show up and present, you kind of touched on, don't bore them. Again, these families, they get to choose what they invest in. They don't have to fit these specific boxes. But what other advice, if someone's going to show up, authenticity, what would you recommend that will help them get ahead if they are going to be there as a sponsor?
Again, it depends what you do, but show them that you know what you're talking about. Show them that you understand the opportunity in your market, you understand the market. Here is why you have a different approach to that, and instead of doing a normal pitch with slides that would just bore everybody, you just need to get to the point. And again, by the way, it's nothing to do with families. It's how I will convince you to invest with me. You don't need to be a different working with wealthy people. It's just common sense. When I'm approaching you now with something, how do I get noticed? How do I manage to get your attention? By not boring you, by not sending you a
Right.
long email, by showing you that I'm onto something that you probably want to learn about, you
Right.
know?
It's like,
And that's what I think. And then when you follow, and then try to maintain to meet them, shake their hands at conferences, follow up with them later.
mm,
Don't be too salesy. You know, if you're Wall Street kind of a broker from the 80s, you know, that would call you, that doesn't work on this
picture it
guy.
now.
It's a turn off. You know, just take it easy. And even if they look at the beginning like full of themselves, they might have their layers of protection. Just slowly get there, you know. And you're
Yeah.
dealing, I always say, with families, you're dealing with human beings, not
Yes.
machines. Institutional investors are machines. They're
Yes.
a machine that's programmed to invest, and you need to tick boxes to talk
Yes.
to them. That's how it works. It's ticking boxes. So our VCs, they're ticking boxes. They're not. I think many people will get upset at me now, which is okay to tick boxes. If I'm a VC and
Right.
I have a disciplined approach, that's fine. But I'm saying families are different in that way.
Yes.
So
It's good to know the distinction. Remember, be a human, be authentic, lead with your passion. If it's the right alignment, the partnership will work because it's a two-way street. But that was incredible, Denny. I mean, I'm sad that the hour is up and we've even gone over and there's so many questions. So I think definitely a part two is deemed. I just can't thank all of you enough for the engaging questions and Denny for sharing your wisdom. I just dropped a couple different URLs in the chat. This is just a way that you guys can connect, continue conversation with me, learn more about what we do at Family Office List, as well as join us next month for our masterclass featuring David Tetton. He's a partner at Coolwater Capital who will be discussing who will be disrupting the investment management industry. But like I said earlier, you know, time is our most valuable asset. So thank you, Denny, for sharing yours with us. Thank you, everyone who attended. And tomorrow we will be sending out a recording. Denny, what is the best way that people can connect with you online? I know you're active on LinkedIn, your website. Is there specific information in tomorrow's email?
sure, you can share my email. People can feel free to reach out. I believe in getting back to everybody because I remember how I started and how tough that was. And send my regards to David Tatton. He's a great guy, and he actually worked for families as well. So he has, again, a point of view that others don't have.
Awesome.
You know, that,
Awesome.
yeah, great.
Well, I am so grateful, Denny. This has been amazing. I hope everyone has a wonderful holiday season ahead and a very happy new year.
Thank you. Thank you for
Thank
having me.
you. My pleasure.
Bye bye.
Everyone take care.